Hello and welcome to the Chronicles of Dragonlance. In this show, my co-host and I delve into the novels and stories of the incredibly famous and lengthy fantasy series Dragonlance. We're going to go book by book and delve into the secrets that made this series so groundbreaking and legendary. My name is Shivan Button. This is my co-host John. Hi, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. We are very close to wrapping up Dragons of Autumn Twilight. We're maybe like 2 episodes away. And now we are here at chapter 12, which is deep in the heart of Pax Tharkas. Chapter is called The Parable of the Gem, Traitor Revealed. I wonder who that is. And Taz's Dilemma.
I'm pretty sure that it's Raceland. He's got to be it. Everything points to Raceland.
I thought it was going to be Laurana. I mean, she was sneaking into the Slamori and, with elves.
It certainly can't be the guy who showed up right at the end of this book and has no redeeming qualities. Can't be him.
And has just been trying to gaslight the party and tell everybody that all of your friends are actually secret traitors? No, surely not.
I trust him implicitly.
Of course. I mean, the guy's name is Eben something. How could you not? This chapter starts a little weird. It starts out with, "Stop that, you bold man," Karaman simpered. And I'm like, what the hell? What?
Little cross-dressing trans panic here.
Yeah, the 80s were a little weird, a little less mature than we are these days. But we start off in the middle of this scene here where apparently the heroes of the Lance have been dressed up like ladies and are just kind of making the standard jokes that you would expect of a bunch of jocks having to dress up like ladies.
There's nothing wrong with drag.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Drag's like a long, proud tradition. It's just how they handled here. But I also think it's funny. In our last episode, we talked about how Gilthanis's plan was like, step 1, do this. Step 2, do this.
Profit.
And then step 4, profit. And we skip step 3. And Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman also don't have step 3. So they just skipped it. They don't explain anything. They just jump straight into the fact that the companions have made their way to the women's quarters and have sold them on the plan. And now the women are going to help them take it to the men's quarters. And okay, well, how did they get there?
Yeah, they definitely just kind of gloss over that. It's like, look, just assume they probably fought some crap and made it there and hand wave, and here we are.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's like, whatever. I get it. Kind of. I mean, it's dumb.
We're trying to wrap this book up. They have a big action scene we got to get to. So who cares how they got to the women's quarters? They did it. Here we are now.
I definitely feel like the editor was like, look, guys, we've been dragging on for a long time and the heroes haven't even met the villain yet. So can we kind of get on with this? So here we are. We're in the women's quarters here. The dudes have been dressed up like ladies for some reason. We will probably find out momentarily. And it tells us we meet the leader of the women who are in there, a lady named Marita, who is kind of just no nonsense, taking care of business type of lady. I like her a lot. She shows up only for these last few chapters, but she's a really just cool, kind of tough lady who's just not here for BS and just make sure to take care of her people.
Do we see her anymore? Like, does she show up ever again after this or no?
No, not to my knowledge. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, she's too busy handling the children. Tanis is sitting there and he's like, I'm worried about the guard showing up. And Marita's like, yeah, don't worry about that. They're always just wasted and they're never going to come down here. And the army's not here, so nobody cares.
Why did they even need the companions to escape at this point? Like, once they explain what's going on, it's like, there's only 2 guards who guard the women. They're always drunk. And then we find out that the dragon that protects the children, also not a threat. And the women can go talk to the men every day. Like, they go in there and provide food every day. It's like, how have you guys not escaped by yourselves already? And I guess it's because there was an army there and there were 2 dragons there.
Also, think about it from her logic, though. Like, these children and women are in this jail cell. They're essentially protected. They're very cared for. They've been given food, even if it's not good food, if it's not healthy food, or whatever. It's still food and shelter. And this dragon that we will find, well, when we get to it, we'll talk about their relationship with the dragon here. Honestly, given the fact that this crazy psycho army just came and burnt down their entire nation, I guess, almost. Abyssinia is not a nation, but like their whole cultural region has been obliterated, right? And like this crazy dude with the dragon and his army, they might actually be in the safest place in Ansalon right now.
But it only lasts so long, right? Like, I think the plan wasn't just to kill all these people at the end.
Sure, but
I guess they don't know that, though, but
they don't know that as far as they know. I mean, And plus, I guess the idea here, these are all a bunch of farm wives and stuff. They're not necessarily thinking of escape, right?
Have you ever met a farm wife? Man, some of the toughest people you ever met.
That's true, I guess, but maybe they're just I don't know. I mean, it just seems a little, you're right, it's a little strange that there's
if the Verminaard and Ember hadn't already known that the companions were here, right? We saw a little bit of that with Tas spying on them. Then we would have, there's no need for the companions to be here, right? They could have escaped just fine because Verminaard would have been gone with the dragon destroying
Yeah, that's true.
the elf's place, and then the place could have escaped by themselves. Anyway, I think
they might have just been still hanging out there to try to get the menfolk out.
Yeah.
Who were probably much better protected.
Getting ahead of myself a little bit here.
Yeah, in the module, Marita is still there. She's called Marita the Seamstress. So it's cool that they kind of kept a lot of the same stuff from the module to here. She's in there, and they also meet Elson.
Oh, when they mentioned that, the seamstress part, because they say they're in this room, there's 34 of them, another 16 in a nearby cell. They straw mats, no possessions except their clothes. And then it says the rest of the time they had to sew draconian uniforms. So that makes sense that she was a seamstress and why she's in charge, because they're sewing uniforms all the time.
Yeah. Also, sewing uniforms for draconian seems like a really crappy job to have.
I didn't even realize they were wearing uniforms. I just thought maybe they had some armor, but they're dragon people. So why do they even need clothes?
Yeah, they have armor. They have I guess you have to sew the leather skirts to the armor. I don't know. That doesn't. The Draconians in book 1 do not fit the flavor of Draconians in the rest of the series.
Yeah, it's all new here. So when the companions burst in, the women panicked. Marita was the woman who calmed them down. She helped convince the other women that their plan would work once the companions had described it to them. And we also learned that the High Seekers are here. And even though they're imprisoned, apparently they're just, they're in the Club Med of prisons where they don't have to do any work and they get slightly better food. And I guess they marginally have control over these men and women. I guess, Verminaard tells them to do something. I don't know why you'd pay any attention to a group of people who kept telling you to bow down to a guy and then nothing bad would happen. And then when you did that, you ended up imprisoned. But change is hard, I guess. And you've been listening to these people for a long time.
And the High Seekers, basically, so in the module, they say that in this room is also the battered Elistan, injured from a fall in the mines, so they have to work in the mines still. But because of his influential position as one of the High Seekers, the High Lords allow the women to tend to him where they would have let most prisoners die unaided, even though Elistan is near death. So it's why wouldn't they just kill the figurehead off? Why do they need to keep him alive?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. The High Seekers themselves are just a bunch of useless sacks of crap anyways. They're we're here to bring these new gods. We're trying to find new gods. We've been left by the old one. Okay, I get it. Post-apocalyptic, the gods have left. You got to try and find answers anywhere you can, whatever, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with questioning or seeking. It's just that aside from Elistan, the High Seekers are all jerks and really just bad people.
There's no point for them, right? The gods are back.
Yeah.
There's an evil army led by a god. So you could join them, or they're about to find out that there's a good god and you can join them. And we'll find out how they feel about that in a minute or so, where they say, nah, I don't like any of these old gods or the new gods. Really, I just want to be in charge and be a jerk.
That's kind of it. It feels a lot like they're just here for power because it's look, you want gods? Here is God. You have sought, here is the thing you've seeking. I like what Marita says, though. She's our menfolk will go along with your plan, she told Tanis, but it's the High Seekers who will give you trouble, because of course they will. Tanis the High Seekers, they're here as prisoners? And Marita's yeah, that was their payment for believing in the Black Cleric, lol. But they won't want to leave, and why should they? They're not forced to work in the mines. The Dragon High Lord sees to that, but we're with you. I think what it is that Verminaard is looking at these people as either potential new recruits for the Church of Takesis, or he's just coddling them to make life more irritating for the other survivors. I don't know.
And at the end, why would you even save them? Just leave them there when you leave. It's just
But I guess it's because these guys are lawful good and they can't just leave people in danger.
That's why it never pays to be lawful good, folks. Always chaotic or neutral good.
Well. So Tanis yeah, of course we won't hurt the children. I don't mean to sound harsh, but we might have to fight a dragon to reach them. And Marita's I beg your pardon, fight a dragon? You mean flame strike? There's no need to fight that pitiful creature. In fact, if you were her, you'd have half the children ready to tear you apart. They're that fond of her. And I'm what? And Tanis, of course, is what? What are you talking about?
Yeah, and we learn that Flame Strike is very old and half mad, and that she lost all her children long ago in some war. And now she believes that the children prisoners are her children. And I think this, man, all of Flamestrike is just so tragic.
I love this little vignette though.
And it makes me think if dragons are like hard-coded evil, it doesn't make sense. If chromatic dragons are hard-coded evil, just like metallic dragons are hard-coded good, then this doesn't make sense for Flamestrike.
Mm-hmm.
She knows that the children are human children, but she still just adopted them as her own.
Yeah. Well, because here's the deal with Flamestrike. Flamestrike's been around since the Third Dragon War. She was a powerful member back, like way, way back in the Huma era. And during the war, her own young brood, like her children, basically go and fight against the Solamnics, because she used to be one of Takis's main red dragons or whatever. And her children get obliterated by the Solamnics with Dragonlances. But, I mean, we'll get to that. We will get to that.
Yeah, it's so... Yeah, but it's like Flamestrike usually sleeps during the day. She won't even know the kids have been taken until after they're gone.
Yeah.
Everything will be fine. We'll dress you up as women. That'll work fine, and we can smuggle you all in until they get the Sturm, and they tell him, like, oh, you're going to have to shave. And he loses it because he's not going to.
Yeah. Sturm's like, you will cut these mustaches off over my dead body, and even then my specter will haunt you.
And so they're like, okay, well, you can just be a really ugly woman. Like... Just put this scarf over your face.
Yeah, it's seriously like, even then was kind of like, oh, that's really not cool. But it's also very much like it felt a little bit like 1001 Arabian Nights type of like the Mamelukes are hiding and they're sneaking into the harem by putting veils on over their big mustaches and everything. And you're like, okay, well, it's a standard trope, I guess.
Yeah.
And his mustaches are definitely big and droopy.
Riverwind also refuses to wear a dress. It's a barbarian tribe thing, apparently.
Yeah, it's apparently a cultural thing but I mean, I've heard of those sorts of things in other historical groups where it's like being cowardly or something means you get dressed like a woman and then aren't allowed to rejoin society until you do some penance or something. And I get it. It's not great, but nothing about Riverwind's tribe is great. But then, of course, Tanis is also putting a scarf on because he's not shaving his full beard either.
Yeah.
Laurana's like, what the hell, man? Why are you doing this? And he's like, look, I'm human. I get facial hair.
She's like, why do you flaunt it? Why are you always like sticking your beard in my face?
Right?
He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I'm not flaunting it. I'm just not hiding it anymore. It's like,
what? Look at that.
I grow a beard. That's who I am. Like,
that's not a phase, Mom.
Yeah.
It's such a good sentiment right there. That's like gay panic unto itself right there. It's like, look, it's not flaunting. I'm just existing. Deal.
Yeah. I'm just being who I am. It's like, I know that elves can't grow beards, but I'm not an elf. I'm a half elf. He spent his whole childhood and his young adulthood hiding that. I simply no longer deny it. And then, he's like, hey, I'm sorry. I lost it in the Slamouri. And she's like, I'm also sorry. They both realize that they overreacted. And then she makes a vow to herself that she's going to be a valuable member of the party, right? She's not going to need Tanis or anyone else to save her.
Foreshadowing. Of course, exactly how she meant to do this, she wasn't certain. She will get there, but she's currently terrified out of her mind because this is a very scary place. And she is definitely lost in her feelings. The companions decide that they're going to go off to the mines, dressed up like women with the other actual women to take the stew of uncertain provenance to the men in the mines to try to go and set up to free them. Raceland, of course, is like, yo, you don't need me for this, so I'm just going to sleep, which is a nice way for the authors to take him out of the scene without worrying about what he's doing.
Well, and also to set it up later that, Raceland was by himself.
Ooh.
So maybe he's the bad guy. He's the spy.
Oh, God, are we still on that? Yeah. Meanwhile,
there's a cut there, and we go back to Fizban and Taz. And I love this part where Fizban's like, thanks, Taz, for opening this hidden door. And then Taz is like, how did he find this door? Like, Taz is like, I think Taz is looking at his character sheet and he's like, wait a second. I'm rolling natural 20s here. I have like a 15 in investigate. How am I missing this?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm the best searcher on the planet. I've got innate racial qualities that let me do. What? Well, good for you, Fizban. But I love this part though, because like Taz is like, Fizban, is there any way you can make that light of yours stay behind at least until we see if anyone's in here? Otherwise, I'm going to make an awfully good target. Fizban's like, I'm afraid not. It doesn't like to be left alone in dark places. That puffball is one of my favorite characters in the whole book.
Man, Fizban's just like, nope, I guess we're just going to die because this glowing puffball refuses to.
If we die, we die.
And so they're in this abandoned corridors in Pax Tharkas, and they come to some bronze doors and a stairwell, and they recognize that the stairs lead down to Verminaard's throne room that they saw earlier. So they try the doors, and it's a dusty art gallery. Tas is trying to figure out where they are and where they can go. And then Fizban calls him over and says, hey, look, I saw this thing here. And Tas is like, it's just some old art, right? There's some red dragons. It appears they're attacking Pax Tharkas. And then he sees that, oh, there's Knights of Solamnia, and they're on some other dragons that are fighting back. He recognizes that these are gold and silver dragons. And then he's like, there are good dragons in the world. Oh, and there's Dragonlances.
I mean, this scene is actually really kind of important.
It's a very important scene, and then it's immediately undercut because Fizban says to him, forget all of this. You'll remember it later. And it's just like...
Oh, yeah. This is like the most annoying cliche thing ever. Like, right? Like, Tas is like... I mean, this whole scene is very profound, right? Like, suddenly Tas understood. There's good, there's balance, there's gleaming radiance. And, of course, Fizban's like, yes, little one, you understand. You see the answer, and you'll remember. But not now. And I'm like, come on, you can't just MacGuffin him out of it. Like,
I don't know why he couldn't just tell people later, right? This whole time they've been talking about, like, how are we going to fight dragons? Every time they face one, it comes up. How are we going to fight dragons? We can't fight dragons, right? There's so many dragons. And here we now know, oh, wait, we have our own dragons. There are good dragons. And I've seen the Dragonlance, so we know it's real. But it's like, nope, don't mention it. Cut it out.
The thing is, Tas is a Kender. Nobody will believe him. They're innately built to distrust whatever comes out of his mouth. So they're going to be looking at Tas like, oh, sure, you saw dragons, buddy. And I also see purple elephants in my dreams. Yeah. So, like, Fizban kind of knows what he's doing here in the sense that he's like, look, I need somebody to see this. And I need it to be Tasselhoff for reasons of hope and goodness and whatever. But also, allowing Tas to talk about this right now would be a liability. So I'm going to just seal this away until he gets to the point that he needs to remember this. And I'm like, it makes sense, but it's also a little hand of God in here.
He is a god.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. You can't like say like, oh, look, Fizban's such a Deus Ex machine. Yeah, he is. Literally exactly that. Especially here where there's a machine that he's Deus Exing in.
Tas like doesn't realize. He's like, oh, what were we talking about? Anyway, I think we're trying to go to the dragon lair. It's over this way.
Yeah, but like the module actually has a really interesting block of text to read here about these paintings in the gallery. And I wish that they had left some of this into the novel, which is like, you know, the first painting shows a high mountain pass glittering in the light of the sun. Snowfields flash among the peaks and thick forests cover the lower slopes. Many streams, frequently interrupted by ponds and waterfalls, wind into the lowlands. A large band of sturdy dwarves labor in the pass, building a low stone wall across the opening. Now many elves appear, bearing huge logs on low wagons, and the wall takes on a familiar form. First, the main wall of Pax Tharkas goes up, with elves and dwarves working side by side on a monumental task. Then, even as two curtain walls rise up on the slope below the main wall, two mighty towers begin to inch their way in the sky. After a few pictures displaying the various stages of construction during which the seasons make their yearly cycle several times, the fortress assumes its current shape. Following this series are a number of portraits displaying various elves and dwarves, usually dressed in shiny plate mail and bearing gleaming weapons. A number of these paintings have been crudely defaced. Then begins a series in which mighty dragons rage about the tower of Pax Tharkas. Acid, lightning, fire, and cold all rain down on the courageous defenders, driving them from the parapets to seek shelter within the solid walls. Soon the mighty dragons land all over the fortress and it seems that mighty Pax Tharkas has fallen. But then new weapons appear. Long, slender, and gleaming like polished silver, the lances are carried by fighters of the highest courage. Slowly, at a fearful cost, the dragons are driven from the towers and walls. Great gashes burrow into their scaly hides, and they begin to bleed and die. Finally, although the parapets are red with the defenders' blood, the skies are free of dragon, and seems the piece is once again returned. At this point, the court of history has carried halfway around the room. Several more portraits follow, this time displaying human leaders in heroic poses. Then the series ends. Faded spots on the wall show that more paintings hung here at one time. A pile of blackened ashes at the far end of the room provides a clue to their fate. It's actually way cooler than the description that's in the book, because it also lays out how there was elven and dwarven harmony, They built up the fortress, rather, and then they get to go, and they have the Dragonlances, and they fight the Dragon Wars, and it's really great. It's actually a really interesting kind of way of explaining like the results of the Kinslayer Wars and stuff. I don't know. I thought it was always a really cool kind of scene.
Definitely gives a lot more detail than the little book says, where we just learn about the
dragons.
And much of that history of Pac Tharkas is just saved for later books.
But yeah, I mean, it is. I guess it's in the Elven Nation trilogy, which is my favorite trilogy. We flip back to our main party, and the companions' journey to the mines is uneventful. They find a few Draconian guards who are half asleep with boredom. Nobody pays any attention to the women going by, right? So it's totally fine. Everything's good. They pass glowing forges that are being fed by gully dwarves. They make their way into the mines. And for a while, it looked like Tanis, like that these humans were just not going anywhere. They can't. They're like, shell shocked. They're stuck here in this mine. They've got no hope left. They're just kind of puppeted. That's why the guards are not really like worried about them, because these guys have broken the spirits of these human slaves. They looked at Goldmoon and they're like, just, all right, lady, whatever you want, because she's trying to preach to them. After all, she was a barbarian, her accent was strange, her dress even stranger, and she told what seemed a children's tale of a dragon dying in a blue flame that she had herself survived, and all she had to show for it was a collection of shiny platinum discs. Whoops.
Well, you would think the platinum discs would be interesting in the sense that, like, platinum's not a normal everyday metal, but...
Well, in D&D, right, like, platinum is just the highest value, like, after gold. In standard D&D, not Dragonlances D&D, it's like, copper, silver, gold, electrum, platinum, stuff like that. In Dragonlance, it's just copper and steel, and I don't know, the monetary system is weird.
I think it's funny they mentioned the High Theocrat of Solus is especially against it, but no one listens to him anymore.
Yeah, because Hedrick is an asshole, right? Like, he was the guy who, in the very beginning of the story, was the one who tried to grab Goldmoon's staff in the first place and got thrown into the fire and then got healed and then sent them on their way.
When he's the one who was in the bar telling them, oh, Verminaard will never come here. The High Seekers have made a deal with him and everything's fine. And as he's talking is when, everyone shows up and takes over the town. So it's
whoops.
Right as he was speaking.
Yeah.
Some of the men are interested, but somehow the High Seekers are opposed and they're still the leaders here in the mines. And as we were saying previously, like, how? Why would you let these people be in charge? So there's lots of arguments, and Laurana doesn't understand why some people are opposed. Surely anything is better than this. And then, like, Tanis points out that, we don't really offer, it's not a great deal. It's like you can stay here and, maybe be alive, but coming with us, you're almost certain to die, right? Like, their choices aren't great here.
What if we left this place that had guaranteed food and shelter and we took you out into the wilderness where there are monsters?
Yeah.
That sounds like a good idea.
Even if we do escape, like, where are we going to go? Oh,
somewhere else.
That's part 5. It comes after Prophet, and we're still figuring it out as well.
Like, I'll be honest, they would not have convinced me either.
And then here we meet a very old man named Illistan. He's a High Seeker.
Laurana's like, how can life be worth anything living like this? And then, of course, that's a very good question, young woman, said a feeble voice. And they see Marita kneeling next to that old dude in a cot, wasted away in illness and deprivation, blah, blah, blah. He's like, look, I know I'm dying, woman. It doesn't mean I have to be bored to death first. Bring the barbarian over to me, etc. And Marita's like, yeah, this is Elistan.
He's the only High Seeker who spoke against Verminaard.
Yeah, she's like, Tanis, she says that like Tanis should know who she's talking about. Tanis doesn't. And so he was one of the High Seekers of Haven, right? So like one of the dudes who was actually in charge. And nobody gave a crap to him. He's got the wasting sickness. He's basically dying. And Tanis like, Goldmoon's a cleric. She can handle it. And Marita's like, sure. We shouldn't excite him with false hope, buddy. I've seen clerics before. And she says it, air quote clerics, right? Tanis calls to Goldmoon and is like, hey, come over here. So Goldmoon comes by. Elistan has his profound moment of the book that Tracy's been waiting the entire story to tell. Young woman, Elistan says sternly, those voices weak, you claim to bring word from the ancient gods. If it truly was we humans that turned away from them, and not the gods who have turned away from us like we've always thought, which is, the driving message of the Seekers, then why have they waited so long to make their presence known? A fair question, Elistan. Very fair. And Goldmoon gets hella Mormon here. She's like, imagine you're walking in the woods. Suddenly you're attacked by a vicious, or you carrying your most precious possession, a rare and beautiful gem. Suddenly you're attacked by a vicious beast. You drop the gem and run away. And when you realize the gem is lost, you're afraid to go back to the woods and search for it. Then someone comes along with another gem, but deep in your heart, you know it's not as valuable as the one you lost, but you're too frightened to go back and look for the other. Now, does this mean the gem has left the forest? Or is it still lying there, shining brightly beneath the leaves, waiting for you to return? Alistan closed his eyes, sighing, his face filled with anguish. Of course the gem waits for our return. What fools we've been. I wish I had time to learn of your gods. And Goldmoon catches her breath, her face drained until she's almost as white as the white guy, and says, you will be given time. And it's like, this moment is meant to be profound. It's sure is a thing. But then, right as Tanis, who's absorbed in the drama before him, stares around, something touches him. He turns around to see that Sturm and Karaman are right there. And he's like, what's going on? And he's like, well, Eben and Gilthanas are both gone. ... Shit. This prophecy that Goldmoon, this like story that Goldmoon tells,
Parable.
this parable that Goldmoon tells to Alistan over here is basically a retranslated kind of version of like a reinterpretation of the parable of the pearl from Matthew 13, which is, it basically, as it says in the King Jimmy's version here, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls, who, when he has found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Which is to say that, like, this pearl here is like the most valuable thing in the world. This is the savior himself. You've found this. You should give everything you have to bring this to you. It's just such a turbo Christian section of the book, though. It's like, look, God didn't abandon you. You abandoned God.
Yeah, there's a scripture in the Book of Mormon, 2nd Nephi, that is riffing on Isaiah and or Matthew. And it's, for as much as this people draw near unto me with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their hearts far from me, and their fear towards me is taught by the precepts of men. And then in Matthew, it's said as, this people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. And then Joseph Smith, in his history, he quotes God talking to him, basically the same thing. They draw near to me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They teach for doctrines the commandments of men, having a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. And that's a big part of LDS Mormon doctrine, is that the true Christian church and Jesus and never left man, like the church left Jesus, and which is why it had to be restored through Joseph Smith. And as we've mentioned in previous episodes, that's what's happening here with the platinum.
Mm-hmm.
The platinum discs are the golden plates, and they're going to restore the doctrine and bring the people back to the gods who have always been there. And that's basic LDS doctrine, is that Christ and God have always been there, waiting for people to come back to them.
Yeah.
That's what Goldmoon is saying here in the same place, is that, yeah, you got to come back. We were always here. You guys left.
I mean, that's also like the fundamental core of Dragonlance, right? Like that is it right there. That is like, hey, we are bringing the gods back because the people have abandoned them. It doesn't make sense in the context of the story because like the gods, so the king priest overreached his power, tried to take over the world and destroy it. And the gods were like, this is out of whack. We need to throw the rock down to destroy the world, to do the cataclysm and reset everything. Okay. Not the best way to stop this, but I guess like
No,
we could probably found a better way that was not apocalyptic.
this is why you don't spend too much time trying to think like a god, because I know that as soon as the rock hit and after the fires died down, what the people immediately did is they prayed to Paladine and to Kesis and all the other gods and asked for help. And, if they were instructed incorrectly, that's not the people's fault.
Right.
That would be the priest's fault. And so if people are really genuinely praying to the gods and your response is, well, no, you're praying wrong, and the reason you're praying wrong is because you were taught wrong, so I'm not going to answer your prayer, that's not really on the people. That's on you, the god.
That's exactly it. I'm like, okay, first off, you destroyed the world. Like, there's reasons you destroyed the world. I understand that, but you destroyed the world. And then these people who are left, who were innocents, who died, or the ones who are surviving and have to deal with this time of plague and horror, who are coming to you on their hands and knees, begging for your help with their full hearts, full minds, and full soul. They have sacrificed themselves to you to try to get you to do the thing you're supposed to do. This agreement here between worshiper and divinity. And your answer is come back in 350 years.
Yeah.
Is like, bro, maybe the answer isn't that the pearl was dropped in the, maybe the vicious beast that made me drop the pearl were the gods.
Because I know you had said in some of the later stories, like there's a rapture, right? Right before the big.
Yes, there is absolutely.
All the good priests and all the good people are taken up. And maybe that's true. Maybe everyone left on the planet was evil, just like in Noah's time. And all those people were washed away, blah, blah, blah. But if all those evil people had kids, those kids, by definition, cannot be evil.
Right.
They are innocents. So what did they do? What did those kids who were born after the cataclysm do so that when they prayed to Paladine, he didn't answer? He's like, nah, I got to wait 300 years. So sucks to be you.
It's just, it sits there and you're like, dude, no wonder that. Why else would there be cynicism and atheism going on here if you're just like, we had the worst trauma in the history of the entire universe of existence, and they had one job and didn't.
It's a great setup for a story.
Yes.
Absolute great setup for a story. If you start thinking about it too much, you start asking questions that should make Paladine and Mishakal feel very uncomfortable. So as long as you don't think about it too much, it'd be like, well, wait a second. You left and we prayed for you.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I will say this. The Dragonlance series does look at this and say like, oh, this is not okay. Because in the Talatis book, which is the first game product I ever bought, Time of the Dragon, there is a secret cult of Misloxa, which is what they call Mishakal on Talatis. That basically 4 years after the cataclysm, she comes back and starts up a new clergy over there. Because she's like, look, Talatis was totally innocent. They didn't do anything at all. The king priest was over here on Ansalon, and we shot a bullet through your continent to kill that guy. So, and she was feeling guilty and turbo guilty. And while Ansalon, all the other gods are paying attention to, and she can't like sneak around, the other one, she's like, no, I'm not going to let these people just die. So she started a super secret mystery cult that's got like people who are healing people and doing things, but they're not allowed to tell anybody. They're not allowed to break the secret. They've got to keep oaths and stuff. But I'm like, I'm
just going to say 150 years after the cataclysm, the whole rest of the world could have used that when all the people who were there for original, who managed to live through it, were gone.
Well and dead.
Everyone else is new. All those people could have used that.
Yeah. But at least I like that she at least was like feeling some level of guilt.
Yeah.
Like somebody at least spent some time and was like, oh, we boffed this one.
So we get the parable of the lost gem. Elistan understands. He wishes he could learn more about these gods. Goldmoon says he will be given time to.
Mm-hmm.
We cut to Sturm talking to Tanis, and he's, don't want to be the bearer of bad news here, but both Eben and Gilthanis are gone.
GG's.
I wonder what could be happening. Are both of them betraying us? It can't be Eben. Not the most trustworthy man, Eben. We cut to Pyros Ember. Ember is the dragon's name. Pyros is his secret name. There's his lair. He's pacing, waiting. If you remember in the last chapter, at the very end, a Draconian came in and said, hey, the spy is here. And Ember says, all right, what do I care? Take him to, and he's like, no, bring him to me tonight. And so that's where we are now. And above him in his lair, there's like a balcony, and Fizban and Tas are there watching.
Yeah. Pyros is in his dragon form. His head is down. He's just irritated. He's basically mentally pacing, so he's not paying attention. And Tasselhoff, being a Kender, has a very good stealth check. Fizban, being a god, says that if that red dragon doesn't want to see me, it will not see me.
Sestun is delivered to him because Verminaard had said, feed him to Ember. And Ember's ignoring him because why would he, it says here, Verminaard has lost his senses if he thinks he will eat a gully dwarf.
Yeah, he's like, look, man, I'm not eating your rotten meat. Toss him in the corner, get out of here. He yells at the goblins. And so Setson's just crying over there, and he's like, I'm just going to light you on fire. Please stop crying. And then another knock happens, and then Pyros recognizes this knock, and he's like, come in, enter, please. And then figure with a hood on his face.
Don't know who it could be.
It says, "Come as you commanded, Ember." And Pyros is like, "Yeah, remove the hood. I would see the face of those who I deal with." The man casts his hood back. Up above the dragon on the third level came a strangled, choking gasp. Pyros stared up at the darkened balcony and considered flying up to investigate, but the figure interrupted his thought. "I have only limited time, Royal One. I must return before they suspect, and I should report to Verminaard." And Pyros like, "Shut up. Who are these fools that you are plotting? Like, what are they doing?" And he's like, "They plan to free the slaves and revolt, and then force Verminaard to recall the army." And Pyros like, "That's it?" And he's like, "Yes, Royal One. Now I must warn the Dragon High Lord." And Pyros like, "What? What does that matter? I'll have to deal with them if they revolt, unless they've got plans for me." And this dude's like, "No, they fear you. So they're just going to wait until you leave, and then they'll free the children and escape into the mountains. This seems to be a plan equal to their intelligence. Thank you, Pyros. Thank you for basically calling these idiots out for the doofiest plan they've
Pyros
ever had."
recognizes that there is no step forward to this plan, and he's calling them on it.
He's like, really? That's your genius? Don't worry about Verminaard. I'll see. He learns about this when I'm ready for him to learn about it.
And then he tells the spy about the green gemstone man. He says, he's here and we'll both be rewarded greatly. So we have to keep that. The most important thing is to keep this man safe and not to let Verminaard know. And so we learn that Ember's plan is to let Verminaard deal with Goldmoon and the companions tomorrow. And in that confusion, the spy will whisk away the green gemstone man to Ember's lair, lower chambers. And then from there, they'll take him to Kisis and gain their rewards.
Yeah. So basically, Pyros like, "I need to get the Cleric of Mishakal and I need to get the Green Gemstone Man and get them to the Dark Queen, and I win." And so he's planning to do that. And meanwhile, Tas and Fizban are up there going like, "Oh, fiddlesticks." Tas passes out and Fizban's like, "Are you all right?" And Tas like, "I'm sorry I choked like that. I couldn't help myself. Even though I expected it, sort of. It's still hard to realize something could betray you." "Do you think the dragon heard me?" And Fizban's like, "I couldn't say. Question is, what do we do about it now?" "Yeah, you can't say. You can't say because you're a god and you do know." And so Taz's like, "I don't know what we're supposed to do, right? Like, I'm not the one who thinks. I just come along for the fun."
Yeah. Well, and I think this is really cute because he's like, "I don't make the big plans," and he's like, I'm so small, and I can only do small things. But so others are going to have to deal with Verminaard. He's like, "I'm going to save Sestun." He's like, "That's the one small thing I know I can do, so that's what I'm going to do."
Yeah. I love this. Taz like, "I once asked my father why Kender were little and why we weren't big like humans and elves, because I really wanted to be big," he said softly. And for a moment he was quiet. "What did your father say?" asked Fizban gently. "He said Kenders were small because we were meant to do small things. If you look at all the big things in the world closely, you'll see that they're made up of small things all joined together. That big dragon down there comes to nothing but tiny drops of blood, maybe. It's these small things that make a difference." "Very wise, your father." "Yes," Taz brushed his hand across his eyes. "I haven't seen him in a long time." Yeah, he's like, "All right, fine. You're exactly right. Like, I can't take care of these guys, but I can save my buddy." And that's where the chapter ends. And I don't know. I think that's one of the more profound little bits of Dragonlance right there. I think that's like one of the really just sweetest moments in this kind of novel. This takes us right into chapter 13.
Questions, no answers, Fizban's hat.
I love the annotated chronicles, like, truly one of the great hats of literature.
And again, we open kind of in the middle of things because it starts with Eben explaining his disappearance to Tanis.
Yeah, you'll notice the authors cleverly didn't tell us who was in that room.
Yeah. He's like, something about Eben's excuse is, "Oh, I heard something outside. I went to investigate and I got into a fight with some Draconians." And then we find out that both of Eben and Gilthanis were already back at the women's cells when the companions returned from the mine, and Tanis is trying to question them. Eben's story appears to be true. There are dead Draconians and his clothes are torn. He's got cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Tika is fiercely defending Eben, and I don't know why. Like, she doesn't know this person at all. It's I mean, I know why they're doing it, but it doesn't make sense narratively that all these people, all this group of people who have known each other their whole lives are all going to bat for a guy they met in the most suspicious of circumstances
20 minutes ago.
And it's continued to act suspicious the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
And Eben's like super reasonable. He's like,
Oh, God, I love this scene. No, Tika, Eben said gently. Tanis has the right to ask if I looked suspicious. It did look suspicious, I admit, but I have nothing to hide. Catching hold of her hand, he kissed her fingertips. Tika flushed and dipped the cloth in water, raising it to his cheek again. Oh, God, come on. Come on.
And then Tanis asks Gilthanis, is like, where were you? And Gilthanis is like, you don't want to know where I am. And Laurana's defending her brother. And Tanis is like, look, man, you got to tell me whether I want to know or not. And he says, I came to check on Raceland. And when I did, the mage was gone. And like this enrages Karaman. He's like, who's about to attack him. And Raceland's there. And so, they turn to Raceland, and Raceland's like, I'm not going to defend myself. He's like, it doesn't matter what I say. No one will believe me anyway. If you think I'm the traitor, then just kill me.
This is definitely like Clue. It's like, all right, one of you was in the like foyer with the candlestick.
Yeah. This is the worst game of a werewolf or mafia. That
seriously, right? Like,
for those familiar with that game,
yeah.
Like Raceland is just calling them on. He's like, look, you're not going to believe me. So if you think I'm the spy, just kill me. And then Karaman's like, you're going to have to kill me too if you try to kill my brother. And Tanis's answer is like not to answer. He's just like, whatever. He's like, we're just doing double watches. Eben, you don't get to sit on one.
Mm-hmm.
Tanis is like, I know I've been betrayed, but I don't know how and I don't know by who.
And honestly, I'm not sure he cares, really. He's like, I got more things to do.
Tanis spends the night wondering what Verminaard's plan is. He's worried that he'll use the companion's presence to kill all the slaves in Goldmoon, and that he feels that, like, despite all their best plans, they somehow played right into Verminaard's hand.
Yeah, because they didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
They're idiots walking into it. Like, gosh, I opened the door and walked in, and suddenly everybody's looking at me. What do I do? How did they see through my plan? Bro. Come on.
We do learn after the fact that Elistan was healed. The men have agreed to the plan, even though the High Seekers disagreed. And the High Seeker elders are jealous, though. And despite that, they must move forward. And again, I ask, why are we saving these High Seekers?
It's so dumb.
And that's where we left. Like, it's a real downer opening where we know, okay, so maybe Raceland's the traitor. Maybe Gilthanis is the traitor. Maybe Eben's the traitor. We don't know. I'm putting that in quotes. We don't know.
Well, somebody doesn't know. Tanis certainly doesn't.
But like Tanis doesn't know. But Tanis is feeling like they've been defeated, right? They haven't even done the escape plan. And he already feels like they're beat.
I mean, he's had a bad day.
Yeah, it's a bad day.
He is just deeply, deeply over this.
And that's where the authors leave us, and they cut back to Tas and Fizban. And it's the morning. They overslept. The whole plan was to rescue Sestun when the dragon slept, but they can't do that now. So they're like, okay, well, now's their chance. Tas now asks Fizban about his plan, which the old wizard has forgotten. I guess Tas says, like, all they need is some rope. Can Fizban magic some up? And this is so good. Fizban goes to cast the spell. And I think it was supposed to be Featherfall for them. Oh no, it was supposed to be raise, and they were supposed to raise Sestun off the floor. But instead, he cast it on Ember. And so the dragon starts to rise from the floor. And Fizban stops it, and then he does it again. And he raises Sestun up this time successfully, puts him onto the balcony. Noted here that Fizban must have known he was going to mess up because he memorized this spell twice. I don't know how many charges he has. I don't know how many spells he can memorize, but we're going to see he casts at least one more spell, so he has at least 3. But he knew he was going to forget this spell, so he memorized it twice.
That's like bringing a bandage because you know you're so bad at using a knife in a kitchen that you're going to cut yourself. And it's like, bro.
At least Fizban recognizes his limitations and plans accordingly. And right as he gets Sestun up there, who's still asleep, Verminaard enters, and he tells Ember to wake up. He's like, I've been told that there are intruders inciting the slaves to rebellion, and the clerics here. Ember's like, don't worry about it. He's like, I got this all handled. Their discussion, though, as they're arguing with each other, Fizban hats slowly starts to fall down like a feather. And I don't, like, why is his hat floating?
Let's see here. Let me go back and look there for a second.
It's funny.
Yeah, I know, it's hilarious. This whole scene is really, really good. Like, basically, Fizban's peering through the railing of the balcony, looking down at the High Lord, and he just, I think the idea here is that he's tilting over so far to try to look that his hat just kind of tips over and falls out.
When it doesn't fall fast, it just like,
Wee!
it floats slowly down.
Side by side, all the way down, and just like, and you could probably see like Taz's face in your mind, just like slowly going, like his eyes are widening, going like, "Oh no!" Yeah, I have no idea what spell he actually is intending to cast there to be able to get these dudes to fly or to lift up, but I'm sure there's some magical spell there. It's weird because like Fizban acts more like, when you think about the spells Fizban has memorized, it's like Puffball of Light, Featherfall, and like 35 fireballs. And then this random like levitation spell or something.
Here's the quote. He says, "Do not trouble yourself, my lord," Pyros began, then stopped, abruptly, staring at something very strange. "Trouble myself," Verminaard fumed. "Why, I—" He stopped, too. The object at which both stared was drifting down through the air, gently as a feather. Fizban's hat.
Get wrecked.
And then it cuts right back to Tanis and them.
That's such a good moment though, because you're like, oh crap, it's like
very Fizban.
Oh, come on. Yes. It's hilarious.
So we cut back to Tanis. It's in the pre-dawn. He's conferencing with Sturm, and like Sturm's like, well, considering everything, like, do we just cut and run? And he's like, no, we got to go forward with the plan. We don't have any choice. The men are waiting for us to do it. They've already started up. We have to do it. And so they review the plan, disguise themselves up as women. They'll go get the children. They'll bring the children to the courtyard. And once the women are there, once they're there, the women must take them to the mines. And then once the men see the children and the women, they'll overcome the guards, and all will escape into the mountains in the south. Very complicated.
Yeah, and it's asking a lot from people who have been starving and working in a mine for months.
Yeah, and then we learn that like Tika and Laurana will be with the women in the courtyard. This is where she's scared, and Tanis says, look, I don't think you or Gilthanis is a traitor. And then it's like, wait, when was Laurana supposed to be a traitor? They're just, at this point, they're just spraying that hose on everyone.
Well, no, Laurana she was originally thought to be the traitor because she snuck into the Slamori after everybody, right?
Yeah.
But it's seriously, it's just like, what?
So the companions with Merida head to the children. It's weird because the guards aren't where they usually are. And Merida's worried. What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
How the layout is there's like the courtyard, there's an empty room where the kids play, there's the dragon's room, and then there's the children sleep. So that's the layout. And as they're walking through, and we learn more about Flamestrike, who's the dragon that guards them, Tanis has brought all the potential traitors on this outing to the children.
How very clever of you, Tanis.
Keeping all the people together. Wondering why the guards are there, they're going to scare children, and the Draconians respond, it's Verminaard's orders that the women be searched. That's not going to work. So they kill those guards immediately. Tanis learns that his sword that he got from Kithkanan doesn't get stuck in stone Draconians.
Mm-hmm. It's super magical.
In a very bad way, we're about to find out.
Yeah, no, this sword was made for a very specific purpose. They call it Worm Slayer.
Yeah. But it takes a minute because they're hiding the bodies. They open the door to the courtyard. Then Tanis and the others enter the corridor that's going to go to the dragon's room and the children's room. Then we cut back to Tas and Fizban, where they've been found out. And Verminaard orders Ember to capture them. And then Ember's like, he's going to kill whoever is up there because they might have heard about the Green Gemstone Man and no one can know. Fizban casts Dark. So we're on the third spell for the day. 2 floats and...
yeah, and a dark.
And then they start to run. Ember blows fire after them. And also they're protected. And Taz asks for how long? And Fizban says, I don't know. I don't even know what's doing it.
What could be doing it?
Here's the quote. It's like, the Kender twisted his head. Behind him loomed the dragon, more horrible than anything he had imagined, more terrifying than the black dragon in Zaxtharoth. The dragon breathed on them again, and once more Taz was enveloped in flame. The paintings on the walls blazed, the furniture burned. Curtains flared like torches. Smoke filled the room, but none of it touched him and Sestun and Fizban. Tasselhoff looked at the mage in admiration, truly impressed. "How long can you keep this up?" he shouted to Fizban as they wheeled around a corner, the double bronze doors right in sight. The old man's eyes were wide and staring. "I have no idea," he gasped. "I didn't know I could do it at all."
Sure you didn't, Paladine. Sure you didn't.
This whole chapter is like a chase scene.
Yeah, it is. Because it felt to me like Indiana Jones, where he's running from the big rolling ball.
Yeah.
And the dragon is a big rolling ball, and we're in the platformer section of the end game. Or like Super Metroid, right? Where you have to, after you kill the mother brain, you have to escape out of the planet there, and you have to jump and jump and jump, and all these things are coming behind you.
This is a load-bearing dragon.
It sure is. Yeah, it's holding up the load of the entire story.
And so, they're just destroying things. They get through the doors, they think they're safe, and then Ember's claws break through. He's destroying this fort from the inside to get to them.
Because he's got to make room for his gigantic dragon body to make it through, right?
Yeah.
And it's wild to me, like, they had to figure out, like, okay, we need Fizban and Sestun and Tas here to run, but Fizban's a god. How do they live? And they kind of painted themselves into a corner here. But
I think they did a good job getting themselves out here at the end.
Yeah, no, I thought the scene is really fun. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, so they get through the doors, the bronze doors. They think they're safe. Ember's claws break through the stone walls. They run for the mechanism room through the secret door. Ember begins breaking through the walls. Fizban says, "We have to climb back down the chain." Tas says, "Okay, we might live, especially if the dark elf is no longer down there." Then Ember breaks through into the chain room. He blows fires down at them. They're still protected, though they can start to feel the heat. Ember breathes fire again, this time at the great chain.
This is showing how smart Ember is. First off, okay, he's not the smartest dude in the world chasing after these guys, but he is, though, because he can just barrel through and he does not care about Pax Tharkas. But when he blows his fire at the mage and realizes, oh, this guy's a wizard, he's got powers. Okay, well, if they're going to do the idiotic thing of climbing onto this giant metal shaft, well, I'm a red dragon. I have fire breathing. What is the one way I can handle this problem? And
Ember, he picks up that gun.
Yeah.
He picks up Chekhov's gun that's been sitting there from a couple of chapters back, and he fires it because the chain melts. And the chain, along with the Fizban, Tas, and Sestun, falls into the darkness. He goes back to a yelling Verminaard. The cog will...
I just saw that sentence you talked about, which was like, Tas was just beginning to think they might get out of this alive after all, especially if the dark elf at the bottom of the chain had taken the day off. Come on. I can't believe I missed that part earlier.
Yeah, maybe the dark elf doesn't work weekends, and hopefully this is Sunday. But the chain is now free, and the cog that was being held by the chain slowly begins to turn. And that is how chapter 13 ends.
That chain's been holding tension on that cog for like 3,000 years.
Yeah.
So
a long time.
Dwarven machinery is pretty good. We are about to see how good it really is. But that will be for next time on the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. My name is Shivan Putt. I'm ElectroTal on Twitter and on Blue Sky and on Mastodon and whatever. And this is my friend John Howard. John is he's False Logic on the Blue Skies and the Mastodons and Twitters and whatever. And thank you once again for listening to us. We appreciate you guys have been joining us for this full year as we careen kind of like chaotically through Dragon's Bottom Twilight. And we're almost about to hit a second book. But before we do have a very special surprise that's going to be coming out. And I will let you guys see that in a few episodes. But thank you for listening. Leave us a rating on whatever your favorite podcast or rating thing is. Join us on our Facebook group. We're probably going to open a Discord at some point if people are interested. And otherwise, we will see you next time.
Yep. Chapter 14, Mata Fleur, the magic sword, white feathers.
Let's go.
Later.